So welcome to everyone, and my assistant Pearl is going to be doing the background stuff, so I get a producer this time. And I will make a pitch for, if you are going to conduct a meeting and stay focused on your participants, let somebody else do the tech stuff behind the scenes, because there's just no way, even as much as I know, I can't manage that and really stay focused on y'all. So that's just an overall. So I'm going to, a lot of people in answering the questions said they were conducting training or leading meetings. And so I think that it would be worthwhile to maybe start off with how I created this meeting, because I did it in Zoom. I mean, I didn't do anything fancy. I didn't use a fancy platform or anything. I just did an invite in Zoom, but an invite requiring a registration. Now, there's a couple of things that are an advantage to that. Number one, I obviously capture your email when you do that, because I have to send a confirmation to you, which then gives you some additions to an email list. It does not capture who attends, who doesn't attend. That you would have to keep track of separately. So would that be, I know a couple of people said that that was of interest. Can I just, by just a show of hands, and we're all on one screen, so you can just, okay, of interest. Mm-hmm. Yes, okay. So I don't want to go off onto a tangent that's not of interest for the group. And by the way, I'm going to do something, and one person asked how you do this, but I don't think he's here yet. There is a way that you can set up a Zoom screen so that you can see my controls when I do a share screen. It takes 2 steps to do it, one within Zoom US and one within the Zoom video settings in the client. So I don't think the person who asked that question is here at the moment, so I'm just going to go ahead and do this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, actually, in this case, I'm going to, I need to open my Zoom US over here in just a second. By the way, I work with 2 things. I work with multiple screens, and I also, one thing, and this is a recommendation for anybody that's running a meeting and you want to be sure that you know what is going on. I have a second computer over here that I'm about to log in on, so I don't have to do that thing. How many times have you had somebody say, "Can you see my screen?" Yeah. If you have a second computer logged in, you don't have to do that because you're seeing it. The only trick to that is make absolutely certain that all of the sound is off, computer sound, because otherwise you are going to be in deep trouble. And I'm sure you've run into that too, where you've had echoes and all of that stuff. And the same thing is true if you join on a phone as a second device. Just join without audio. So you're seeing my Zoom US opening screen. I'm going to go into meetings. I'm going to schedule a meeting. And I'm just going to call this a test. And the key thing here is right here, registration required. Once I do registration required, right now, I don't see a lot of my other options, but I do registration required and save it. Simple as that. Now I can go back and I can do other things. Remember those questions that I had that you saw on the registration? I get those by going down here into manage registration. Oops, no, sorry. I make mistakes too. And actually, I came across something that I don't. I go into edit. So did you see where I clicked just then? It was off to the right of the registration confirmation. And I can do custom questions right there. It can be really useful. Like I found it useful to see what topics you all were interested in. You can make them required or not. I made both of mine not required. partly because they really weren't critical, but also because having required
Check of the
questions
car.
it can put people off. Okay, so all I have to do is I do custom questions, and then I do a new question, and I can put in questions with short answer or a single answer where you can say yes, no, or have a series of choices and so on. And once I've saved that and then copy the invite, everyone sees the questions when they register. It can be really helpful for, like, if you're teaching something, you might say, well, what about this topic is particularly of concern? What is of your highest interest, or any number of things, but something specific to what you're doing. So that's how you create a meeting with a registration. And what you end up with after the meeting is under reports. I'm going to look at my meeting reports, and I can generate a report, and it comes out as, you can export it to Excel. If you are using a program like a Kartra or Kajabi or Newsendler or whatever, you can export it to that. You can export it to any program that will take a list. Okay, so I'm going to call this, I'm going to go to generate that report, and I'm going to look at all registrants. In this case, it was just a test meeting. There's like 2 of us in there. So this case, it gave me the whole list of reports. All I do is go into one of those, open it up, and I can copy those emails and so on off. So that's everyone who registered. So that's how you get your folks in. All right. Is that, any questions on that? Okay. So from there, okay, you have people coming in. Zoom is going to force you to either have a waiting room or a passcode. And they do that for security reasons. You don't want just, as I say in Spanish, fulano de tal, dropping in unexpectedly, because you don't know who that person is. A waiting room is useful. You can turn it off after you're in the meeting. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to share a screen where you're going to see another image of us, but that's going to allow you to see my Zoom controls. Okay. So it could be a little confusing, but so I'm going to go back and share that screen. And in this meeting, down at the bottom of the screen under security, do you see the security button? Okay, right down here, you've got a lot of options. Some of these you can set up as standard options. Most of these you can set up as standard options within Zoom US, but sometimes you want to change them during a meeting. And so I have, for instance, I have share screen not enabled, but I have everything else enabled. All right. Now, it depends on the group you're with. I had somebody who did a speaking opportunity, somebody who was out of the UK, and she did a speaking opportunity for a school, and she herself is trans, and she left the chat on, and she was not happy. It got really wild on the chat. So she came back to me. I produced the next program for her, and I said, no chat. Now, the advantage to allowing chat, and several people mentioned engagement, is engagement itself. You can use the chat very deliberately to create engagement. So I could ask a question like, let's see now, who here thinks they're, well, a question that everyone could answer. And there's 2 ways to do it. Just ask the question and have them put it in the chat. Another way to really create engagement is say, okay, don't hit enter until I tell you, but put in the chat, I don't know, the month of your birthday. And you have everybody type something in, and then you say, go. And everybody's watching this thing scroll. And you can create some fun out of it by doing that. Very simple. It just takes a little bit of thinking in advance. So another question that came up, and Anita, I think this was you who asked me this question. How do I make myself look at the camera as opposed to looking at the person that I'm talking to? Because let's face it, our tendency is to look down, look across, and so on. Now, in this case, because I'm talking with a bunch of different people, I'm not terribly concerned about it. But if you want to really be addressing the camera, there's a couple of things you can do. One is, and you may not know this, and you can do this, you can try it out for yourself. You can drag and drop the picture images that are on your screen. So what I like to do is if somebody else is speaking, I will drag their image so that it's right behind the camera. So for instance, I just dragged my image so that it's right behind the camera. I can sort of see myself, but not entirely. And it's much easier for me to focus on the camera when I do that. Much easier. And nothing fancy. The other thing I will sometimes do is I will sometimes actually turn my camera off. Because what do we tend to do when we're in a meeting? We look at ourselves. Isn't it true? Yeah. Yes, Linda, Primp. Put down the wine. Linda, I know Linda well, so I can joke. And Vicki, you asked, why does Go create engagement? It's like everybody's waiting, and then they're going to watch what's going on. And it needs to be an interesting question. I didn't have an interesting question prepared. And let me take a step back. And I don't know if you noticed this, but when you came into the meeting, does anybody remember what you saw on the waiting room message? Diane, can you tell me? Unmute and tell me.
I saw your company name and the name of the program, and I want to know how to do that.
Yeah. You can customize the waiting room, and it's really not difficult to do. I will take you over to Zoom US and show you how to do that in just a second. One caveat, make sure you remember to change it back when you're done. So if I have welcome to the Zoom Learning Lab, as soon as we're done with this meeting, I need to go back and change that to a more generic introduction. So on my own little meeting checklist, and I use meeting checklists, bottom of that checklist is change the name of the waiting room. Okay. So does anybody here know how you do that by any chance? No? Okay. All right. I'm going to come over to, I'm going to do a different share. And another thing, Linda, you asked the question about how do I smoothly move from one share to another, or from one PowerPoint to another, or whatever. And if you look at the top of the screen, I'm looking to make sure you're seeing it where I'm seeing it. See where it says new share? Okay. So instead of having to stop the share, start a share, find another screen, I simply click on new share, and it's going to again give me my, the set of screens that you see when you do share screen. And I click on the Zoom US screen, which is over here, and click on share.
So important to have all of the shares you're going to want to use sitting there ready for you.
Yes, it is absolutely really important to have those sitting there. Just a second. To have them sitting there. And the thing is, while you're doing other things, you can switch from one screen to another fairly easily, or you can change your share, then switch the screen, but have them lined up. And you'll notice I actually have a fair amount of stuff open on this. I actually have those open for a reason, because those are things that I'm not sure of, but I may be wanting to use during this meeting. Clean everything else out of there for those of us that tend to keep too many things open. So here's settings. I've gone into my basic settings, and I am going to do a search to find waiting room. I don't like scrolling through pages of settings. And in order to do that, when you're in Zoom US, is you do Control F. Where am I? It's just not going to let me do it. There it is. And it opens up a certain little search box, and I'm going to search for waiting room. All right. So where I did this is I did customize waiting room. See where that is?
Mhm.
All right.
Mm.
And you can change the title. And you can add a logo and a description. I didn't have a description there, but I could put in a description of the company or my mission, whatever. And it's that simple to make a change. So I'm going to now change this back to welcome to the meeting.
You've got the twice.
Thank you. Okay. And see now my save button is highlighted. So that's what you do. It's in settings. It's really a useful thing. As I say, just be careful that you change it back. Often when I'm doing production for somebody, if I am running the Zoom side of things, I will put their client's logo in there. And that gives a very good feel.
Dorothy, to change it back, you go back to the same procedure settings and
Exactly.
Control F.
Yeah, I do Control F waiting room so I can find it easily because I don't know exactly where it is in that list. And then I come down to here, and the setting I want is just customize waiting room. Okay, so that's another useful one. And remember, I did that just by on my new. I'm going to new share. I'm going to come back to our main screen, and all I did was click on new share and then go to that other screen. Just it makes it much smoother. But as Linda pointed out, make sure you have the things lined up that you want. You know, unless somebody brings something up and you say, well, wait a minute, let me go find that. I mean, that's fine. People understand that. But so that's an interesting tool. Other tools for engagement. I'm going to stop the share. And if you look down at the bottom, oh wait, I need that share. I'm sorry, because I need to be able to show you the tool I'm using.
Dorothy?
Yeah.
When we get on a webinar that we're doing, this has happened to me once, and the share just didn't work. And I stopped share and I tried again, and I just had to do the meeting without the slides. Do you understand my question?
I understand the question. I can't imagine why it happened.
Okay, then forget it. If there was an easy answer, tell me. If not, let's just hope it never happens again to any of us. It was,
That is bizarre.
yeah, it really was. So,
Huh.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't help you.
Shocked. I really.
Stop. So down on the bottom bar, you see a thing here that says apps. How many people have used apps within Zoom? Falk has, that's about it. Okay. Zoom now has a number of apps that are built in such that, and speaking of engagement, there's some excellent stuff here. So if I click on apps, I can use, I have a timer, which looks like this. So I can set a countdown timer. I need to move my images away. On my other computer, there. The side images were covering up the timer. And I can have display the timer for others. So let's suppose that in the main meeting room, you wanted to say, okay, I want you to take 4 minutes and write down whatever the assignment is. And you can set it, well, let's say 5 minutes. Let me make it simple. You can set it for 4 minutes, but in this case, you simply put 5 minutes on the timer and you start it. And so they can see a countdown timer on the screen while they're doing whatever your little assignment was. Now, this is not a breakout room, but if you're, yeah,
Oh.
Linda.
I was just gonna say, would they see it in the breakout room?
Well, you can set, when you set up breakout rooms, you can set a countdown timer for how long the breakout rooms are going to last. To be honest with you, I'm not sure. I've never tried having the timer show up in the breakout rooms. But
Dorothy, show us
Yeah.
how to do 4 minutes. Do you just type it in there?
I just type it in here. Just like that. Okay. I just didn't, it was quicker for me just to click on the 5, but yes, you can set it for 90 seconds or 1 minute and 30 seconds. It's a really nice way to generate stuff in the main meeting room. You don't have to send people into breakouts to do this. I want you to take 4 minutes, and I want you to write down every idea that you have for writing a blog, if that happens to be what you're talking about. All right. And puts people under pressure, and most of us, whether we like it or not, work well under pressure. So another thing you have here is you have Mentimeter. How many people here have used Mentimeter? Okay. Mentimeter is a great and very simple app to use that allows you to do polls. It allows you to do word clouds. It allows you to do all kinds of things. And it gives you you can do that, and then we can see it on the screen as we're going. So if I choose this word cloud, so I'm going to invite all participants, invite. And then I'm going to click the share icon. Okay, that's switched over. And you can do one of two things. You could enter this code. You go to menti.com and use the code. Now, here's something I'm going to point out, and I'm going to point this out as a problem in a lot of meetings. If you're going to do this, send the instructions in advance and also put in the chat what they are supposed to enter. Otherwise, you're going to have people fiddling around and they can't find it and they can't get at it, and it completely dilutes the effectiveness of the tool. So whatever tool you're going to use, if they have to either opt in or if they have to enter a code, send it in advance if you can, but at the very least, have it in the chat. In a couple of minutes, we're going to be using Mentimeter. Get your phone out, go to menti.com and enter this code. So they're set to go. So that's a good one. And Falk, you raised the question in your in what you said in advance about the new whiteboards. And I will have to tell you that I won't be talking about that today. And the reason I won't be talking about that today is I can absolutely guarantee you that not every person in this room has a completely updated version of Zoom. And if you don't have a completely updated version of Zoom, you're not going to see it, and it gets people frustrated, and you lose the thread of your meeting. So it's a nice little feature, but if I were a trainer and I could in advance be sure that all of the people in my training were on the updated version, then it could be useful. The new whiteboard function allows you to save the whiteboards, and it allows you to share it with people who aren't even in the meeting. So if you're doing an ideas generation session, the new whiteboard, which is right down here, and I'm not going to click on it because a bunch of you won't see it, is a very versatile function if you have an entire team that's already on it, on the very latest version. I wasn't even. The other day, it was being shown in a meeting that I was in. And this is a meeting where most people are pretty savvy on Zoom and so on. And there were all kinds of people in that meeting who were saying, where is it? I don't see it. What's this? And it completely diluted the ability to get everybody to participate. Just think about this. When you're looking at engagement tools, make sure it's simple enough that people can do it just like that. Because otherwise attention span of a goldfish. Well, hey, I'm guilty too. I can say it only because I'm also guilty. I'm going to share this again. The one other app that if you are doing a lot of training and want games and want to build in a lot of things, Kahoot is a very powerful and useful app for that. There is no free version and it's not cheap. But if you are truly looking to do gamesmanship and all kinds of different engagement tools, you might really want to take a look at Kahoot as a way to bring that in. I got a trial version of it, which I'm going to cancel because it really is expensive and I'm really not going to be using it that much. I prefer to stay with one or two not too complicated things. Because if you get confused, trust me, your participants will get confused.
Dorothy.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention how powerful Mentimeter is.
Yeah.
I do courses with MIT. And they have a Zoom lab and I've done a course. I participated in a course with over 120,000 participants worldwide. And we all use our phones,
Yeah.
our iPhones as participants. And when you ask questions with Mentimeter, you get the cloud in seconds. You get 50,000, 100,000 people answering, and you see the word or the idea that generates the biggest response. It's like being in actually taking a course, like when we used to at university, only doing it virtually. It's such a powerful tool.
And it's so simple to
It's
use.
really, and it gets you engaging with the iPhone. And here's the trick. MIT uses a lot of other tools with the iPhone.
Right.
So it actually draws in a participation, like you're actually present in a course. And I've started using it in some Zoom sessions, like
Yeah.
leadership, like with only 20, 30 people. So
Yeah.
you can actually do kind of whiteboarding in a cloud with your team.
Yeah.
It's insane how powerful that tool is.
Yeah.
Especially it gets people feeling like they're actually present in a seat in a course.
Mm-hmm. And also the other thing about Mentimeter is, yes, it works on an Android as well, Carolyn. The other thing about it is let's suppose you're presenting with PowerPoint. You can build Mentimeter slides into the PowerPoint. So you could have 2 slides and then you have a Mentimeter quiz. You have another 3 slides and they have a word cloud. And it's very simple. Just go take a look at Mentimeter. So if you're teaching and you want periodic Q&A or a word cloud or just fun stuff, where do you want to travel? You can do that very easily with Mentimeter. It's why I like that one versus some of the more complicated ones.
Wow.
Okay. Renee first and then Joyce.
Well, thank you, Dorothy. That is great information. I love that. Mentimeter and PowerPoint. Terrific. So my question is, I went into my apps and Mentimeter came up. That's all that came up in my apps. Should I get a list of all the apps that would come up, or is it because we're talking about Mentimeter?
No, I
What
can show you what you should be able to do.
Okay.
If you see the top of my screen, it says My Apps, and then over here is Discover.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Click on Discover.
Oh, okay. Let me
That'll
try
show you
that.
all the apps that Zoom has.
Oh, Discover. Now that's simple. There you go. Thank you.
Okay.
It's
was
always
easy
so
one.
easy. Dorothy, you make everything so easy.
All right, Joyce, question.
I know you're going to say YouTube, but besides YouTube, do you have any other suggestions where we could feel comfortable learning about Mentimeter? Is there a good person besides you that we could go to?
Well, I hate to say it, but I mean, other than spending time with me, I would recommend YouTube.
Okay.
But what I like to do, I'll tell you how I like, and maybe I'm different, so this may or may not be relevant, but the way I like to do it is I like to, if I'm starting on something new, is I'll get started on it. When I get stuck, I'll look up that specific item. And if the video is longer than about 5 minutes, I'm not doing it.
Hmm.
I want a video that is like maybe 7 minutes, but I want a video that's on a specific problem topic. The idea of just
Mhm.
getting washed over with an entire orientation when you won't use most of it just doesn't work for me. And frankly, that's the way I teach Zoom. I try to, when I get into this kind of session, I focus very much on what are you going to use, and stay away from the rest of it because it just makes life complicated.
That is perfect. The birthday girl is happy.
Oh, good. That's your birthday present.
Well, it's very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good.
Good. So another thing that well, we talked about some about engagement. I want to show you about spotlighting. Now you have to be a host or co-host to set up spotlighting, but it's a wonderful way to almost like create a panel discussion or a one-on-one interview in the midst of a big meeting. So I'm going to share screen, go back to the same screen. And if I want to, let's say I want to bring Linda up front. See that I'm pointing at the 3 dots next to her name, or next to in her box, so to speak. All right. And you saw me check on my other screen to make sure you could see it. And see that drop down? Spotlight for everyone. It's right there. So let's say I want to bring in Linda, but I also want to bring in, I need to get this my thing out of my way. I'm going to bring Diane in as well. And I can, now please note that I can either add a spotlight or I can replace a spotlight. So let's suppose that I'm finished talking with Linda. Now I want to talk with Diane. In this case, I would probably be spotlighted as well. I could replace a spotlight, or if I want the 2, then I have the 2 of you there. Oh, very good. And then all I have to do to stop the spotlight is I simply, again, the easiest thing, you can go on the participant list and do this, but it's easier to do it just from within the meeting. I go to those 3 dots and I say remove spotlight. Okay. And I'm going to do the same on, and you notice that in my controls, I also have remove spotlight as a big button up top. You see that? It can be easier to manage. Okay. And then I'm going to go back for myself and do view gallery. I can spotlight myself. I can spotlight other people. I can remove spotlights. And if I'm seeing spotlight and I want to go back to not having those people, the only ones I'm seeing, you simply go up to the right-hand corner and do view and go back to gallery. It will take you back to gallery. Because some people actually find it annoying. I've had people where I've been doing production saying, I don't want you to spotlight thing. I'm like, well, then just do view gallery, because most people do want to see that. It really is useful as a way to bring 2 or 3 people right up front in a conversation. Okay. As a producer, I will do a lot of that. Somebody contributes. If you've got 2 pages of people's faces and you can't find the person that's talking, you're like this. So I consider it up to the host or the producer or whoever is managing that meeting to bring that up front and bring those people in. The more people you have, the more important it is, because the more people get lost on things. So I'm going to stop that share. Now I'm going in and out of share screen a lot for purposes of what we're doing here. I don't really recommend doing that in a meeting where you're presenting. It can become distracting. But you notice something I also do, and I do this unless I'm doing it back of the room production, I will tell people what I'm about to do. It's just a way of kind of saying, oh, okay, I know what's coming. Vicky, you had a question? Unmute.
When you do the spotlight, do you have to be on share screen?
No,
Okay, thank you.
no, I just did that so you could see the controls.
And when you spotlight, everybody sees it, not just you.
Well, I'm gonna,
I mean, you did just then.
do you see me spotlighted?
Well, you are because you're the host. Like spotlight fog.
No, I'm gonna bring you in.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody sees it.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody sees it. So I'm gonna remove that spotlight. And I find that when I come off of Spotlight, I have to go back to View Gallery to get back to the overall view. I don't know why, because it wants to default to View Speaker. Okay. I'll show you one other thing. Oh, I need to share so you can see the controls. Just a second. Screen. That can be a lot of fun. Speaking of having fun in meetings and getting people, I'm going to go to View. Oh, shoot. It's not going to let me do this while I'm in share screen. Well, I'll just go ahead and do it myself. I go up to View, and one of the choices there is immersive. All right. And I'm going to go into my classroom. So let's suppose you are teaching a class and you want to have people in the classroom seats or whatever you want to call it. You go to View. There's three choices on that View thing. One is Speaker, second one is Gallery, and the third one is Immersive. And there's a whole bunch of different options.
Is there
Now-
a bar? Is there a bar?
Let me see. Change immersive view. Pretty close. We're sitting at a bar, right? We're sitting in the kitchen. Now you do have to be, is immersive only on the host computer? I'm not sure. Well, do this. I'm going to stop the immersive view. All right.
We don't have it.
You don't have it. Okay. Let's see. Is Pearlie around? She probably hit her video.
Yes, Dorothy.
Okay. Can you click on view? Oh, I see you there. You're behind my camera. Click on view, and do you see immersive view?
No, I'm not seeing it.
Okay, so only the host.
Yes.
Only the host can set up the immersive view. I was thinking it might be host and co-host, but only the host.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah. So, well, which makes sense. Just imagine competing immersive views going on. That would be pretty funny. So, hi, Barbara. Welcome.
Sorry, I'm late.
No, not a
Well,
problem.
there'll be a replay, I hope.
I'll make sure we get recordings out to the folks that are here, so that you can go back through and clips and find stuff. The only thing I don't do is timestamp it for where we talked about specific things. I sometimes do that later on, but so I would like to take a little sidestep and talk about something that I'm doing. Oh, Barbara, what's your raised hand about?
Well, I just had a question, and you can skip over it, but how when you're sharing your screen and you're showing some of the features, somehow I don't think I could do that. And maybe it's because you have double screen, because I don't think I could show some of the features within Zoom. So what's the trick?
Showing the controls?
Yeah.
It's 2 steps. One is a setting in Zoom US. And I can't remember the exact wording on it, that it has to be turned on before you get into the meeting. It's like it's show my Zoom screen. I can't remember what it's called. All right. The second step is within the meeting setup itself. And I can probably show this one just a second. Let me do this.
And is that something we should be doing, or maybe we should leave it alone? I don't know. If
I
it-
would only do it if you're trying to instruct people about Zoom.
Okay,
You go into video settings. Just making sure you're seeing that. And you're going to go into share screen, and you're going to, where is my choice here? Presenter video. Go to advanced. You know, I'll write a note on it. 'Cause I set it up. You have to do 2 settings to make that work. It took me the longest time to figure it out. It really did.
thank you, thank you.
So that was the difficulty that I had. And I actually went back to Gina on it. Back, it's probably a year ago. Gina Carr is someone that many of us often interact with. And I had seen her doing it. And I said, you got to show me how you do this. But it's 2 separate settings that you have to set up. And I would never do it unless I was teaching somebody about Zoom itself. Because otherwise I think it's just distracting. Okay. So now I'm going to show you something that I'm up to. And that is that in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing a 5-day challenge on unlock your online program genius.
I love it. I love the genie.
I know, we had such fun with that. And what I will be covering, and I think you can see explaining, and in this case, providing some tools for, is getting that, really drilling down on your unique client profile. And as you can see from what I'm doing here, eliminate the tech terror. Get some tools to get in front of your ideal clients. What do you need to do before you even start creating your course? How do you develop what I call a network of help? Really, what is it going to take to build an ongoing income? And uncomplicate the behind the scenes. I'm a real process person, and I teach tools to help people get through, because this is a really multi-factored process to get an online program going. So online courses are not going away just because the pandemic is quote unquote over, although I say that with a question mark. I had a course practice canceled yesterday. And this is an opportunity to take part in a fun 5-day challenge. It's going to be, I'm going to do 45 minutes of interactive content, but I will stick around 15 minutes at the end and answer questions, whatever the questions might be when I do this. So I would love to have folks join me. John and Linda participated in a prior program, which was my beta for this. Would either of you like to, and actually this is a challenge that leads into the more intensive course, obviously, but I love working with people and helping them come along in terms of their knowledge. So John, you have any comment?
I would definitely have a comment. There's no question that Dorothy made a huge difference, and I didn't even realize how unorganized I was. Dorothy gave me a structure and challenged me, and actually what I thought I was going to do amplified into something so much different and so much more relevant. I totally saved a ton of time doing it the wrong way because of Dorothy. Every single week is a learning experience. You can't just sit through Dorothy's class. You actually have to make time to take action on what she gives you. You'll learn things every week, but it'll be much more productive by actually doing it. I'm definitely going to sign up again for Dorothy's program. I learned so much the first time my head was spinning.
That's great, John. Linda?
I have to agree with John. Some days it felt like the fire hose. It was like, oh my gosh, you think you know stuff, but the way Dorothy presents it, it's very logical. It sort of starts at the 30,000 foot view, and then it goes down into all of the details, etc. And it makes a huge difference. It suddenly puts it all in place, even though you thought you knew pretty much, I've got this, I've got this. And then all of a sudden you go, oops, but yes. And I agree with John, you got to do, because otherwise you won't be advancing. And it's, you're going to do it a week in between, Dorothy, like before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What they're talking about is a 12-week intensive. But what I'm going to do the next time around, and it came out of this group, I learned too, is I'm going to give what I would call almost an implementation week every 3 weeks so that people can catch up and can really make the progress that they need to make. So the 5-day challenge is going to be my intro to that. And John, I would love to have you back. And I also would, and Linda, I know, what am I, chopped meat? Sorry, you just didn't say it. And as many of the people around this room know, I've worked with most of the folks here for a long time, and I love it, and I love seeing them come back, and we've worked in other contexts and so on. And actually, I have a favor to ask John and Linda, and that is one of the things that we did during the 12-week intensive is we formed some subgroups in masterminds. And Linda and John and 2 other people have continued with theirs. Julie Donnelly is one of them. And is it Tina?
Yes, Tina.
And Tina. I would love to drop in on that because I want to learn more about what made that so successful so that I can make sure that I incorporate that the next time around, even more strongly. I mean, I recommended it, but I didn't really get involved as much as I might have. And you all really took it and ran with it.
And I'm sure John would agree, it tends to be a bit of an accountability. So even though your 12 weeks was over, this group of 4 was, okay, what are you going to do next time? And you may not get 100% done of what you were going to do, but you moved forward, whether it's baby steps or whatever, but it's the continuous moving forward.
And I want to add on to that, that one of the things that happened in our group is we had a chance to see what we were working on, and we gave each other very blunt, needed feedback. And so instead of continuing working on something that wasn't landing, even though all of us had different venues where we spoke at, we still were able to pretend that we were an audience and how would we feel watching this or participating in this. So it was really a great polish on what you gave us, Dorothy.
That's great. And I want to incorporate that. And even, I mean, most people in the program took advantage of, but I'm going to push it a little harder because I think that really made a difference. So, Carol Ann, I think I answered your question that yes, immersive is only, setting up immersive is only on the host computer. Everybody sees it, but the setup is strictly the host. And it can be just a fun thing to do. So that is the challenge. It's a couple of weeks from now. And as I say, each day is going to be about 45 minutes of interactive content. And then I will just be there for whatever questions come up related to the content or related to Zoom. As a matter of fact, Julie called me yesterday to get a little help on Zoom. Julie Donnelly is another colleague of ours who saved my cookies on Saturday when I was going out to do a race and had a pretty bad hip problem. And she was able to give me some pressure point stuff when I was at the start line and I finished. So she's amazing. She's amazing. Okay. Let's see, other questions. If not, I'm going to go on into quickly into one other area. Okay. Breakout rooms. That's the subject of an entire hour. But basically, breakout rooms are just a wonderful way to generate engagement, to get people involved, get them to focus down on a question. And I can't go into a lot of detail at this point, but you can set them up in advance and assign people. Problem with that is who's showing up. If you do want to assign people, have an assistant working with you that can do it in the background while you're working. And give people specifics, instructions in the chat, but remember that they're not going to see the chat when they get into the breakout. So you send it as a message to the breakout rooms. So if you're the host, you send, let's see. I can't do this I can't do 2 things on the same screen at once. I was going to say put you in breakout rooms and then show you how I can send a message, but I can't do that. I actually crashed Zoom this morning when I tried to do 2 different screen shares at the same time. So that there are lots of options on breakout rooms. They can be extremely useful. Just give people specific assignments. I would say keep the times relatively short. You can always add time to a breakout room. And the other thing is, as a host, you can move around from one breakout room to another. Okay. I find that a little bit disruptive. I usually go in with my video off, and I tell people in advance, just let me be a fly on the wall. To me, that's still a little bit of an interruption because people want to turn and ask you the question. And that's not what this is about. Zoom has announced, and I've not been able to test this, that there is now, with this very latest version, a way for the host to monitor participant interaction in the breakouts. I don't have time, put your breakouts and go check it out and then come back and discuss it. But that's the next thing I'm going to be looking at, because I love that idea. If I can kind of do a drop in without actually having to join the breakout and then leave it, it would be a wonderful thing. And it is literally on the version that was put out last week. Now, in that case, I don't mind if other people aren't on that version because it shouldn't make any difference. It's just the version that I'm on that's going to make a difference there. So if you do breakouts, you can randomize them, you can repeat them. There's lots of different things that can be done with them. Plan it in advance, have your questions laid out, whatever you want them to focus on, have that written out so you can just copy paste it into the chat. And then you can also copy paste it into a message to the breakout rooms themselves. So that's another, it's a really powerful tool, and there's a lot to it. You can make it really simple. I mean, I could put everybody here in a breakout room in about 2 minutes. I don't want to do it because we're getting short on time. I just say, start a breakout. I'll tell you what, share my screen, share my home screen. I click on breakout rooms, and I can put the number that I want to create. You notice me check on my other computer that what you're actually seeing. So I can create a certain number. As I increase that number, it's going to change the number of participants per room. So instead of having, say, 25 divided by, I can just increase this until I get 4 to 5 participants per room. I like that. I can either include or not include co-hosts. That didn't used to be true. Co-hosts were always being assigned to breakouts, and it was a pain in the neck. I can let participants choose a room only if people are really familiar with Zoom. There's one way to use this that I do find useful, and that is in a specific room is to have, let's suppose I've had 3 speakers and I want to let people join a room so they can sit down and talk further with one of those speakers. I'm going to let people choose a room, but I'm going to say room 1 is going to be hosted by Dorothy, and room 2 is going to be hosted by Anita, and room 3 is going to be hosted by Elaine. Then they can go in and choose the person that they really want to have some additional conversation with. That's valuable particularly in a conference setup, because people are going to have greater or lesser interest in certain topics. So, as I say, I can't create a breakout and, okay, so there's room 1. I can rename it, and I can call it Dorothy. Okay. So you can do this in advance. You can set them up, and then you can go in and just have the speaker, whoever is supposed to be hosting it, join that particular room.
Dorothy, how do you know that you're going to be in that room?
If I'm choosing self-selected, then I will choose that room. And in this case, what I'm doing is I chose the option of let participants choose a room.
Oh, so duh, you just go in there.
Something like that. I don't think I would have put the first word in front of it.
Never mind.
Good one, Mickey. I can add a room. I can delete a room. It's very easy to do. These types of things, again, get somebody to assist you or do it before the meeting. And you can do that before the meeting.
Love you, Barbara Barron.
But you're
That's a valid question.
It was. Hey, listen, if you're seeing this for the first time or even the second or third time, of course it's not going to be obvious. I mean, I don't expect it to be obvious because there's a lot to it. And again, one of the things that I like to do is take out the complications, take out the stuff that you're not going to use. And I do that when I run my programs too. I don't go off on tangents about, oh, you can do this and then you can do that. And here's another app you can lay in here. My attitude is keep it as simple as you can and still get your message across.
Dorothy, I have a strange question.
Mm.
I know I always have a strange question, but this is really strange.
No, quirky, Renee, quirky.
Quirky, yes, thank you. but in a good way, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I've been in breakout rooms and with a group of people, and suddenly someone disappears. Does that mean that the host has moved them, or that they've decided to move themselves out? And can we do that ourselves?
It could be either one. When you're in a breakout room, you will see a choice on your screen that says leave breakout room or leave meeting.
Mhm.
And often when somebody just disappears and nobody has said anything, it means the host has reassigned them. Now, why would a host reassign them? They might have a breakout room that doesn't have enough people in it,
Mhm.
and they want to balance it out a little better. That's more often than not, if I just yank somebody from a room, so to speak, because that's kind of what it looks like, it's because I have a room that only has like 2 people in it. And I got another room that's got 7. And I want to balance my numbers better. So I, as a host, and actually co-host can do this as well, will reassign someone.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
no, it's actually a very good question because it's a little odd when it happens.
Mm.
Okay.
I thought it was me.
No, it's not. So we're going to wrap up here. As I got into this, first of all, I have to tell you, this is something really funny. People ask me about, do you get nervous before you do a program? I said, or do a race, because I do triathlons. And I say, absolutely. I don't care how often you've done it, you get nervous. I was nervous this morning because I haven't done this format in a very long time, and I wanted to make sure it was relevant. Having your answers to those questions was very helpful to me. I appreciate those who did put comments in. It helped to guide things. And I would love to have you come join me for this challenge. And I'm glad you like my image. But also when you look at this, because this is the first time I'm announcing it, if you happen to spot something that you think could be frankly written better, let me know. Because this is not, nothing's set in stone on anything. We can always be tweaking and updating and modifying. And I sure hope I see at least some of you join me. I saw John said he signed up. I'm very glad to see that. And so I appreciate everybody's participation. I do have one question for you all. If I were to do this again, today I put it at 10 o'clock Eastern simply because I had a commitment that's most of the rest of the day. Would it be more convenient to have it a different time, early afternoon, late afternoon, late morning, no preference?
I thought the morning was great.
Okay, all right, it's a good kickoff.
Dorothy?
Yeah.
Noon seems to work for me.
Okay. What?
That's a good time. Usually I have morning meetings, I have afternoon meetings, and my self-improvement, look better, think better type activities take during the lunch hour.
Okay.
For an hour.
Okay. All right. Well, an hour is, I would never do longer than an hour. So I would really appreciate it before you, as you leave, if you could put any comments in the chat about what did you like about the session? what was maybe one key aha takeaway? I would truly appreciate that. And then we will wrap up. So I'll give you a second. This is where I should put up a timer. So 2 minutes, think about it. This would be a great thing for like a 2-minute timer. Great, Diane, that's good. Waiting for a message, okay. Mentimeter does not have to be, there is a free version of Mentimeter. You do get, I think, the Mentimeter logo on stuff. I can't remember what else, but there is a free version of Mentimeter. Okay. And by the way, in working with apps within Zoom, personally, I typically work with 1 or 2. They've got 20 different apps on there. But if you start trying to flop around from one to another, to another, to another, something's going to go wrong. I promise. So now this is being recorded, and I will send a link to the recording to folks. And if and certainly